we met Michael Jr., who's a Christian comedian, and he asked a little bit about my story, and when he heard it, he told me that he wanted me to put it on YouTube and said that he would link it. So I'm basically keeping my word to Michael Jr. by doing this. When I was 22, I got very sick and was diagnosed with an extremely rare disease. There's no treatment and no cure, and I was told that I only had a couple of months left to live. Being so young and really enjoying my life, I graduated from college, I had a great job, wonderful church, amazing family and friends, and suddenly being told that it was all going to be gone within a few months. My gut reaction to that was, woohoo, heaven in a couple months. I couldn't have gotten better news. And that confused the doctor. And a lot of people may not understand that. And I explain it to them this way. When I was 7, my grandma moved to Florida. And I didn't know much about Florida, but when my mom told me that we were going to go visit her, I was excited. I really loved my little sandbox and pail of water, but I had enough sense to know that the ocean was going to be a lot better. And as much as I loved my little swing set, I had enough sense to know that Disney World was going to be a whole lot better. And even though I really couldn't wrap my brain around everything that was going to happen, I knew it was going to be good. And best of all, my grandma was going to be there, and I was going to get to see her face to face. So to be told that I was going to die wasn't bad news, because no matter what good things this world has to offer, I have enough sense to know that heaven's going to be a lot better. And I get to see my Lord face to face. So I wasn't upset about that news. However, my excitement was short-lived because God gave me the verse in John that says, "This is not a sickness unto death, but for the glory of God." So I knew I wasn't going to die from this disease. I'll die someday, but from something else. I had to give up my apartment because I couldn't work and couldn't drive and couldn't take care of myself, and moved in with my parents. And I was being seen by the Mayo Clinic, not because they could do anything, because there is no treatment and no cure, but because it's such a rare condition. They asked if they could track my progress. And since I'd already passed the couple-month mark, their top specialist estimated that I had about 2 years left. But he said they would be 2 years filled with excruciating pain, and I would die a very, very slow, very painful death. Every time we went in, he would ask my mom and me if I needed antidepressants. Now, I'm not against antidepressants. If someone needs antidepressants, they should take them. But I didn't see the point of taking them if I wasn't depressed. And he finally said to me, "Well, why aren't you depressed? You've just had your whole life taken away from you, and the prognosis is very grim." And the answer to that is very simple. When you give somebody something, you lose all say in it. You lose all rights to it. If I give you a dog, I can't get angry because you changed the name. Or I can't get mad at you because you're feeding it Science Diet instead of Blue Buffalo. And I can't get depressed because you're giving it an ugly haircut. Now, I can tell you, wow, your dog looks hideous. But it's your dog. You like that haircut? Then, hey, it's your dog, not mine. So, if I'm told I have 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years to live, that's not my problem. Because I gave my life away. And when I gave my life to Jesus, I didn't loan it to him. I gave it to him. So whatever happens in this life is really not my concern. Now, I give him suggestions every now and then about how I think it should go, or what I think would be best, or what I would like. But when it comes right down to it, I tell him, but it's your life, it's not mine. And in exchange for me giving my life to him, he's forgiven all of my sins, he's given me peace, he's given me joy, he's given me eternal life. And that's not a trade I'm willing to take back. It's been 22 years since I was first told that I was going to die, and there really is no medical explanation as to how I am still functioning. Doctors ask me all the time, what do you attribute this to? And the only thing I can tell them is the grace of God. I haven't had a single moment in 22 years without significant debilitating pain. I'm in pain right now. And because of that, most people don't die from the disease. Most people commit suicide. A couple reasons for that is, there's about 2 pages of symptoms that go along with this, but the worst is the pain because it is so relentless. And it varies from a dull ache like you would get with a bad flu to feeling like there are 100 ravenous, rabid rats ripping and chewing and tearing on every inch. And the other reason is because it's an invisible disease and people who have it look fine. And it's very hard to cope with that depth of suffering when people around you are like, wow, you look great. Oh, glad you're doing better. And I understand the temptation towards suicide when dealing with it, but that's for people who don't know my Lord. And I know my Lord, and His grace is sufficient. It's always been sufficient. And the worst nights, the worst days, when I thought there was no way I could survive to draw another breath and really didn't want to, I had to tell myself, remind myself, He said His grace is sufficient. He's not a liar. So if I think it's not sufficient, then I'm a liar. And I remind myself that going through the valley of the shadow of the death, He is with me. And He's always been there with me. He's always given me that peace and joy. I haven't had a moment in the last 22 years without that peace and joy. That doesn't make sense to a lot of people because they think, well, either you're suffering or you have joy, or you're stressed or you have peace. But with my God, they're not mutually exclusive. There's a verse in 2 Corinthians, I think it's 6, that says, we suffer, but we always have joy. How's that possible? That's because God gives joy that isn't dependent on circumstances. I had it before I got sick. I've had it every day since then. My body has been through a tremendous amount of stress, and it's caused mental and emotional stress, but I've also had peace. That stress does not have the power to take away my peace. And suffering does not have the authority to take away my joy, and I'm not about to give them up. And God is so good to me that in spite of everything, I can't help being so grateful for His blessings. And when I talk about having a heart of gratitude, I'm not talking about thinking happy thoughts. I'm not let's just think about rainbows and puppies and, just try to be in denial. I'm too pragmatic. I acknowledge everything that I'm going through. But I also am honest enough that I acknowledge my blessings. And when I've been too sick to walk to the bathroom, as I'm crawling there, I can't help thinking, wow, God, I'm so thankful I'm crawling on carpet. I'm so glad that I don't have to go out in the rain and the snow and the heat and over dirt to go to an outhouse. I've got a toilet 15 feet from the bed, indoors. And I get closer and I'm like, wow, thank you for bath mats. And I look up and I go, wow, clean towels. We don't have to boil water to wash our towels. We have a washer and dryer right in the house. That's a huge blessing. And I don't think before I got sick, I was ever truly grateful for toilet paper. But I am constantly grateful that I have toilet paper. I don't know what people do who don't have it. I really don't want to know. But I'm so blessed because I always have it. And hot and cold running water. Actually, in our house, we have clean water. I don't have to beg someone to go get me a bucket of water every day from the well or empty my waste bucket at the end of the day. I am so blessed. And in the worst of times, when I've been lying there in agony and begging God to make the pain stop, I also can't help thinking, but I'm lying in agony on a soft bed. And I'm thrashing around on clean sheets. And I know that it will pass. And I'm still in a house with air conditioning and heat and blankets. When I'm running fevers, I can have 6 blankets on me. You know why? Because I have 6 blankets. How many people in the world can say that? And I think about how blessed I am, and that is what gratitude is. It's being honest about really how much God has blessed you. And my prayer for people is that they would get to know my God in such a way that they would find that peace and joy that's not dependent on circumstances. They may not go through what I've gone through, but whatever they're going through, if they would have that peace and that joy and understand that and be filled with that gratitude so that their lives are filled with praise and thanksgiving no matter what's happening, it would just be amazing. That's what He's given me, and that's what He's done for me.